All right, everybody, thanks for hitting the download button on the Steve Austin Show Unleashed. Today I got everything for you, including the kitchen sink. Hell, I even doubled up on the Alpha Brain to make sure I was ready for this damn thing. So thanks to Onnit, the company that makes Alpha Brain, helps keep my ass razor sharp, helps out my sorry-ass memory, and helps keep my brain in good working order. Well, as good as my brain can work anyway. Onnit also helps me get my swell on. They make room to export. I take that stuff before every damn workout. It lets me go longer, harder, and recover faster, and it's a great, all-natural way to fight fatigue. And if you go to Onnit.com/Steve right now, you can get 10% off of your order. And check this out. Onnit has a money-back guarantee. If something don't work the way it's supposed to, Onnit will give you your money back, no questions asked. So go ahead. Try Alpha Brain. Try Shroom Tech Sport. Or give Onnit's T Plus a try. You ain't got nothing to lose. T Plus is designed to increase strength and power. It improves athletic performance and helps with muscle recovery. It's been certified drug-free by the Banned Substances Control Group. That means it's safe to use even if you're competing. So go to Onnit.com/Steve right now to get your 10% discount off all supplements. So what are you waiting for, folks? Take your ass to Onnit.com. That's ONNIT.com/Steve to get 10% off your order.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're going to take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio. And he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is the Steve Austin Show. Unleashed.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from Agua Dulce, California once again. Going to have a few more podcasts out of here, and it's time to get on to Los Angeles and back on down to Tilden, Texas for deer season. Hey, I hope this podcast catches you in a good place. I know there's a bunch of bullshit going on out there. Job-related stuff, personal-related stuff. It's called life. And the headaches, hassles, and horse shit that go with it. Yeah, you goddamn right. That's a T-shirt idea, and I'm executing that T-shirt right now. Headaches, hassles, and horse shit. You know, I'm a guy that looks at the glass as being half full. I always want to be positive. It's easy to be negative. And it's fun to be sarcastic, and it's fun to talk about a bunch of bullshit that's going wrong. But, man, you know, the fact that we're here alive and well and, you know, gainfully employed or trying to be gainfully employed and doing the best we can, you know, it's fun to be alive. It damn sure beats the alternative, don't you think? Headaches, hassles, and horse shit. The story of my life. And, you know, I actually invented the headaches, hassles, and horseshit tag when I was talking to Teddy Fowler down at the Broken Skull Ranch. And I told him, I said, you know, that's what owning a ranch is. It's fun as a motherfucker. It's great. You're outdoors. You've got 2,100 acres that you own, and you can do whatever the fuck you want on. But therein lies the maintenance, the expenses, the work, the blood, sweat, and tears, everything that goes with maintaining that place. And the headaches, hassles, and horseshit to go along with it. So anyway, speaking of those three things, my life has been a real big clusterfuck as of late. Y'all know I've been out here filming the Broken Skull Challenge and trying to send these shows via internet to Stacy over there in Beverly Hills has been a big fucking pain in the ass. And I say that with a capital F-U-C-K-I-N. I ain't put the G on there because it's just me riffing with you guys. So anyway, and y'all hear all about my technology problems all the time anyway, so I'm not going to get all caught up in it, but let me tell you about the little soap opera I got going on over here in my trailer. And y'all know from listening to the show, when I come out here to film this show, I live in my trailer 5 days out of the week. Now, I do as good a job as I can trying to keep this place in order. But right now, as I look around, I got shit scattered everywhere. I got 2 boxes of water stacked over there on the desk. I've got my pearl neon clock right there, secondhand spinning around like a rotisserie chicken. I got a camouflage jacket on one chair. I've got a Carhartt jacket and a dirty T-shirt on another chair. I've got my plug-in cooler with all my bullshit in it. And then there's the kitchen counter. And it's a mix of several bottles of Frank's Red Hot Wing Sauce, Buffalo, some tennis balls that I throw for Hershey the Wonder Dog, McCann's Irish Oatmeal, my coffee maker, a gallon of water, Dimetized ISO 100 smooth banana protein powder, alcohol scrub, a hot plate with a small skillet that I cook in every day, and my measuring cup, some Pam, and a bunch of other bullshit and some Splenda that I put in my coffee and in my oatmeal every single day. My problem is flies have invaded my trailer. I don't have any food setting out. There's some bananas over there, but that's the only thing. And I keep my door closed most of the day. But the flies have come in here and they've taken over. And it just started doing this about 4 or 5 days ago. And the thing about it is, I didn't have a fly swatter to kill the sumbitches with. I've been trying to you ever get a fly land on a counter and you just take a swing at it, try to scoop it up and ball your hand up? Well, I do that all the time at the house, and when I catch them, I throw the sumbitch on the counter or on the floor or in the sink and bounce his ass off the surface, and that usually kills them. I pick them up, put them in the drain, the kitchen sink, and wash them down the sink. Well, out here, there's barely enough room to take a big swing, but most of the time I miss them because the flies out here are skinnier. They're leaner, they're quicker, they're more athletic than the flies in Marina del Rey and Tilden, Texas. And these are regular house flies, too. They're not the greenheads or the ones that sting you. They're house flies. And they've been bothering the shit out of me because that's what flies do. I did a whole podcast on flies when I was in Mexico, and I never thought I'd talk about them again. But they've come back to haunt my life one more time. So all of these flies infiltrated my trailer. There's probably about 10 of them all together, and I'm sure they're working on the buddy system. And they would say, hey, man, you go buzz his ear, I'm going to land on his nose. And then you go land on his left elbow, and when he brushes you off, you go land on his right elbow. Then he's got to use his other hand, and then you land on the back of his head. And so these flies, it's like being in a 10-man tag match. What it is it's like being in a handicap match with 10 flies. I'm trying to fight all these motherfuckers off. Here's the thing. Now, I'm okay if I got a couple flies in my trailer or in my house, as long as they don't land on me or my stuff. And I told you way back in the day, flies are smart. But I don't know how smart they are after all. Because, like I said, if they're not landing on me or my food, I'm okay with the fly. But when they land on me, they cross the line and then they make it personal. So if there's any flies in this trailer right now that can understand me, I'm okay with you sharing my air conditioner when I run my air conditioner and my heater when I'm running my heater. But when you land on me, you done cross the line that you ain't supposed to cross. And I don't draw no line in the sand that I ain't ready to back up. So I'm telling you motherfuckers right now, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. If you land on me, we got trouble. If you land on me, we got business to settle. If you land on me, you gonna have headaches, hassles, and horse shit because you got Steve Austin coming after your ass. Well, now here's the problem. Dumbass me, when I come out here, I didn't bring no fly swatter because flies never were a problem out here the last time I came out. Well, the flies infiltrated. I'm trying to catch these motherfuckers off the counter. They too quick. Trying to hit them with the towel. Towel's too slow. The fly's too quick. Can't do shit. I had one in the bathroom the other day. Couldn't take a good swing at him because my bathroom is about as big as a telephone booth, and you can't get no leverage in that motherfucker. Too hard to swing a big towel around, so I got that little hand towel. And I'm winging that motherfucker around like Bruce Lee with a set of nunchucks, trying to kill that son of a bitch. And he'd do a drive-by, land on my ear. I'm sitting there shaving, and he gets on my mirror. I try to pat him, on the mirror, but I got a ring, my big skull ring on my right hand, so if I try with my left hand, I can't hit him because my left hand ain't worth the flying fuck. So I can't just smash him on the mirror because my ring will bust the mirror trying to kill his ass. So anyway, God damn it, after I got off work today, I had a mission. I was on a mission from God. And I went into town, and I went to the grocery store with Hershey, and I went in, I got a bottle of wine, so I could have my little cup of wine at night, and then I got a couple of other things that I needed, and I went across the street to the hardware store, the only hardware store in Agua Dulce. And the lady that owns that place, I said, hey, I said, I got $1 million question. Do you have any fly swatters? Well, you got to understand, out here in Agua Dulce, this is horse country, so you know they ain't no strangers to flies. They got more flies out here than they know what to do with. She goes, they're right there in front of you. And I looked down, side of the counter, there they were, had them tucked in a work pouch. You know, like a work belt that you would use a carpenter. That's where she had them stuffed in. And she had 2 kinds of fly swatters. She had the old school kind, which was made like a screen door with a little stitching around the edges of it. And then she had the newfangled one. It was the one with the wire handle and the plastic part to smash the fly with. Now, here's the thing. I'm in there test driving the fly swatters. I got the old school one in my hand, and I like it because it's a little floppy. But then I get that new school one, and it's like it's got a little more horsepower. I get some more torque on it. It's got a little more to it. And put it this way, when you hit a fly with this new one, you put some stink on that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to wing a fly. I don't want to wound a fly because I'm out there to kill the fly. I'm not out there to injure him, put him out of commission in the slightest fashion. I'm there to kill his ass without breaking whatever he's landing on. So, even though I'm an old school guy, I got the new school fly swatter because I thought the performance factor would be better. I came home from the hardware store, walked right in with my sack of groceries, and I also had some styrofoam plates. They didn't have any paper plates over there, so I bought some styrofoam plates. Here's the thing, and you got to see this to believe it. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but every time when I go get groceries and Hershey comes with me, and she goes with me damn near every time I go to the grocery store in Los Angeles or out here, when she sees that I've got groceries, she wants something in that bag to carry in as well because she wants to help me. So normally at the house, whether it's Brussels sprouts, a bag of carrots, a box of rice, anything, whatever I have, she's got to have something in her mouth so that she feels like she's helping. And she looks back at me while I'm carrying in groceries, and that's the look. So I had wine in there, some other stuff that she couldn't carry, so I handed her the styrofoam plates. And these things are about, I don't know, about 5 inches tall. So she puts those in her mouth, and she's proud as fuck because she's helping her old man carry the groceries into the trailer. So I open the door, swing it up, and she goes up the steps. And I take the paper plates, the styrofoam plates from her, and tell her she's a good dog and give her a treat and go about killing flies. So I bust out my fly swatter as soon as I get there, and I've got 2 zeros spotted. Yep, a fly is a 0, less than 0 as a matter of fact. And I haven't even tried to swing this thing yet. I haven't dialed it in. I haven't sighted it in. And I bam, bam, pow, pow. Yeah, psh, psh. Kill 2 flies within 6 seconds. The shit is on like Donkey Kong in my trailer. So anyway, since then, as I record this podcast, it's 7:30 at night, and I think about 6 flies have lost their lives due to the accuracy and the dependability and the performance of my brand new fly swatter. Flies, if you fuck with me, I'm telling you right now, this is your last warning. I'm fixing to open the front door to this trailer, and you are free to grab whatever shit you can and leave. Those of you that stay will be executed with extreme prejudice, as the military would say. Ain't a single motherfucking fly lining up at the door. Now see, I'm looking over at the corner by my refrigerator, and I got my walking stick over there. My walking stick that I take with me every time me and Hershey go out and go for our walk. Now, I could have busted out that walking stick on them flies, but I'd have beat this goddamn trailer up so bad that, shit, CMT would basically had to buy a brand new one. Might have even charged me for the damages. So I held off till I got my fly swatter. I've given fair warning. And you know, it reminded me out of a movie of Rambo that Sylvester Stallone did. They drew first blood, not me. Now the flies drew first blood. I let you have your fun and games. You come in here, fuck around, do whatever you want. But when you land on me, on my stuff, then you done made it personal. It's like Dusty Rhodes talking. You done made it personal, baby. And when you got to make it personal, then somebody got to pay. That was the worst Dusty Rhodes impression I've ever heard or done in my life. Anyway, hey, folks, I got a show for you coming up today. I got a few more stories before I launch into some bullshit questions that you guys sent in. I've got a bunch of answers for you. I appreciate you listening to the podcast. And before I go to my first break and get into your questions and a couple of my stories, I got to take care of some serious business and talk about how you can win some serious instant cash this weekend at DraftKings.com. Yeah, that's right. I said instant cash. That ought to take the sting out of your struggling season-long fantasy football team. So your team's in a bit of a slump, huh? That's not a problem at DraftKings.com. You can stack your lineup every single week, and you ain't got to worry about injuries or bye weeks. You pick your team in minutes, enjoy watching the football games, and wait for your instant cash to roll in. And if you go to DraftKings.com right now, you can get free entry into the $100,000 fantasy football contest. All you got to do is go to DraftKings.com right now and enter the promo code STEVE to play for free. That's Steve at DraftKings.com.
Hey, this is Chris Jericho here, and if you want to hear from some of the biggest names in pro wrestling and some of my best friends in the world, then you got to download Talk is Jericho, Triple H, Batista, Edge, Bray Wyatt, the Hardy Boys, DDP, Jake the Snake Roberts, Daniel Bryan, Bret the Hitman Hart, Cesaro, so many more. You want wrestling? You want the inside scoops? I got you covered. Download brand new episodes of Talk is Jericho every Wednesday and Friday at podcast1.com.
Steve Austin Unleashed.
All right, everybody, here we go with the Steve Austin Show. Here's what's going down. When I recorded that open yesterday, it was sometime in the afternoon, and I just got finished doing battle with a bunch of flies. That store was a straight-up shoot, a true story, if you don't know what a shoot means. And had all that headaches, hassles, and horse shit with them damn flies, then sat down to try to answer a bunch of questions. And I tried real hard at the beginning to answer a very long, complicated question. And I struggled with this thing, and I kept pushing the stop button after over 3 hours of trying to answer one question. I said, hey, man, it's not my day today. I'll wake up tomorrow and get some things done before I go to work. So here's the process. Right now, as I speak to you, it's 6:25 in the morning out here in Agua Dulce, California. I'll be on set probably about 8:30, 9 a.m. I tell you what, when you come out to the Broken Skull Challenge, you never know what to expect. Today is November 4th, so it's starting to finally get into some colder temperatures. And when we film out here in the desert, the weather is very interesting because sometimes it can be hotter than hell, and then sometimes just flip a switch. The winds start howling, and it's cold. Right now I'm on my iPhone with the weather report. Out here in Agua Dulce, the temperature is 37 degrees. Now, 37 degrees for me is pretty damn cold. I don't know about you, but that's a cold son of a bitch. Factor in this. The wind is howling outside. I'm still laying in my bed. Well, I'm propped up in my bed. I don't want to give you the wrong damn impression, drinking coffee. But I can hear that wind whipping around my camper. So 37 degrees temperature plus at least 30-mile-per-hour winds is going to make it colder than hell out there. And I'm not going to give you too many secrets about the Broken Skull Challenge. We've made some changes. Obviously, we've kept a few things the same. But trench warfare is our first challenge today with a new group of women coming down to the ranch. While we're on the weather, let's see where it is. While we're on the weather, let's check some more places. In Edna, Texas, it's 64 degrees. In Tilden, Texas, it's 61 degrees and raining. We could use the rain down there. Damn. We've been lucky to get some rain. What's the percentage of chances of rain? All day long, it says. All day long. We need that rain out there. And then when you get to 7, 8 p.m., it's 100% chance. Well, we can deal with that. Back here, Agua Dulce, 37, windy as hell. In Hartwell, Georgia, 50 degrees. I still got that setting on there from when I was down there filming Redneck Island. So dig this. Here in a couple hours, I'm going to drive up in my Dodge Ram Charger, my pride and joy. vehicle has 27,000 original miles, swig of coffee. And there's going to be 8 women standing there freezing their ass off. And they're not only going to have to go through the difficulty of 3 rounds of competition, and if you win, you stick around. If you lose, you go home. But they're going to be out there in the cold-ass wind and the cold-ass temperature and getting in the water with trench warfare. Now, I'm going to be freezing my ass off, too, because they're probably going to take my jacket off because they're going to have theirs off. I might as well have mine off, too. I tell you what, after so many years of pro wrestling, getting beat up, I love cold weather when I'm out there deer hunting, but when I'm just left to my own devices, my body doesn't want to work like it normally does in the hot weather, so it kind of freezes up. It's like right now I'm drinking my first cup of coffee. It's a big-ass cup of coffee, and I need that other cup of coffee that's going to be after this one, kind of like antifreeze in this cold weather. But for me, I got to have 2 big-ass cups of coffee to wake up and start feeling like a human being. And then I also took my Alpha Brain. I take my Alpha Brain every morning with my coffee to try to clear the fog out, get the cobwebs out, and it helps me kind of wake up and start getting focused. So that's my morning process. And when I get up, swig of coffee for the working man, when I get up, Hershey stays in bed. And what happens is, and this is a daily routine we do, I get a first cup of coffee, and when I do, I bring back Hershey a treat and hand it to her to eat in bed because she's fixing to eat her breakfast. So she lays there in bed after she's eaten her treat, and when she sees me go for my second cup of coffee, that's when she starts bucking and she's ready to be fed. And she'll start wagging her tail and looking at me and expecting me to feed her. And so what I got to do is go into the cabinet, get a level 3/4 cup of hard dog food. We use Flint River Ranch dog food. Everybody keeps asking me what dog food I use. You go to Flint River Ranch and just Google it in. That's not the website address. We use that kind of food. And then I'll use some canned dog food that we get at Petco or wherever we get it. I'll use 2 tablespoons of that, and I'll put some warm water in there, mix that together so it's got not a watery consistency, but it's wet. And then I'll get a can of pumpkin, not pumpkin for pumpkin pie, but pumpkin is good fiber for dogs. It helps them when they take a shit. And I'll put 2 tablespoons of that on the side on top of her food. And then Hershey will sit down. I'll put her food down. She'll give me a kiss, and then she's allowed to start eating. She always starts with that pumpkin first and then gets on to the rest of the dog food. Then I'll finish that second cup of coffee about that time, and that's when I'll put my Carhartt jacket on, and we'll walk outside. There's a flat track out here, and I'll walk Hershey on about a 3 or 4 lap walk while she kind of stretches her bones out, gets a little bit of exercise in because she's going to be laying around in the trailer most of the day. And every time I get a break, I'll come in here and take her on a 1 or 2 lap walk, let her potty, do her business and stuff like that. And on this first morning walk, she'll take her first pee, and then she'll usually take a big old shit because she just got finished eating. She's kind of like me. After I do that, I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to make up 8 egg whites with 2 whole eggs in a skillet with Pam, and then I'll eat 3/4 cup dry measure of McCann's steel cut oats. And after that, and that coffee, I'll do my business. And if I hadn't shaved and showered before, I'll get in that shower and stand there in that hot-ass water and let that water kind of warm my bones up and get ready for the task at hand. And that's to go out there and give these women a run for their money, fair competition, introduce all the challenges to them that they're going to be doing through the day, and hopefully, we have some badasses come out here because I'm still looking for the biggest badasses in America here at Season 2. And due to the reception of last year's Broken Skull Challenge, I'm hoping this thing does even better, and we're out here doing this for a long time. But I got to say, when it's cold weather, it's damn near deer hunting weather without the wind. But anyway, it is what it is. Check it out. I just got on my SAS email and questions at steveaustonshow.com, and I had a question about jackets. The question comes from old Kerm Jawia. He said, Steve, thanks for taking the time to read this email. I currently plan to buy a jacket, and I remember a few weeks ago you mentioned a company that makes a good jacket. It's the one that Teddy361 bought you a while back. He bought this thing for me for Christmas last year. Could you please tell me what company that is? It would be much appreciated. My Carhartt jacket is laying about 5 feet away from me, Kerm. I can't remember the spelling on it, but just Google in Carhartt to the best of your spelling ability, and it'll come up. And they're basically, there's only a couple colors of their jackets. They kind of got that wool stuff on the inside and just a regular collar. And once you buy a Carhartt, if you take care of it, that jacket will basically last you for life unless you're working out there in the oil field or doing some hard work on a ranch. It's hard to wear a Carhartt jacket out. The one I've had at the Broken Skull Ranch, my hunting jacket, man, I've had that thing for close to 8 or 10 years, and it ain't even close to being worn out. And that's got all kinds of stains on it from all the hunting and stuff I've been doing, but that's the brand of jacket. Go check it out. Let me go over here into some emails here. I always make a couple of folders. It's called Brand New Show. When someone asks me a pretty good question, I'll send all this stuff over here so I know which questions to go to. And here's one coming from old Andrew. He said, Steve, does anybody get to destroy the announce table? Does the decision come from above before the match? Does the main eventer automatically get the green light? Thanks, Andrew. Well, let's talk about that announce table. You don't mess with that announce table unless you've got clearance to mess with that announce table. Those are the guys calling the match for television, and whether it's a Spanish announce table, which is always the sacrificial lamb, as we know, and then for a heavy-duty angle, you have the American announce table. So you got to get cleared to destroy that announce table. Don't even mess with it. Don't pull the hood off of it and start pulling all the monitors out unless you've been cleared. You mess with that announce table without getting any clearance or anything, you're going to get your ass chewed out big time. Probably could get even fired these days the way things are working. So not anybody gets to destroy the announce table unless you're shooting a heavy-duty angle on the underside of the card or there's a run-in from a main eventer. Usually those things are there. They're toys for the main event guys to play with within the structure of the match, the body of the match, in which whatever psychology they're doing. And as a high point, I've certainly been a part of matches where we actually destroyed both the Spanish announce table and the American announce table. And so they can gimmick those things just to cut hair to make them go down a little bit easier. But sometimes, even when they're gimmicked, you can slam a shit on somebody and they don't go down. And I believe this happened in one of the matches I was in with The Rock, and it was WrestleMania. It might have been the match right after WrestleMania 17 where I fought Rock the next match, and I had him laid out on the table, and I jumped off of the side of the apron and dropped an elbow on his throat, and the table didn't break. So, man, take two. Went right back up, did it again, jumped off, dropped that elbow right on his throat, and finally it crashed down. And when it does crash down, there's a couple of toys down there to play with. And one of the things, like I mentioned on the WrestleMania 17 match, if I ever blew up or just got a cotton mouth, as we call it in the ring, where you can't hardly make any spit, I'd always reach underneath that announce table and grab me a little swig of water and then go back to the task at hand. And if you remember in that one match, The Rock actually introduces the water. He takes a drink and spits it all over my face. Well, it was a great moment, but he didn't just grab that water just to spray it in my face. That was an afterthought and an idea on his part. He was basically doing that to get himself a drink of water in the middle of a match. So, of course, since he did that, I had to reverse the tables and do the exact same thing to him. So in that match, he does it to me first, and then I get my water, take a little swig, and spit it right back in his face. And so it was like tit for tat. But the reason he did it was to get a drink of water. And so since he got a drink of water, I got one too. Now, the main eventer automatically does not get the green light unless they clear it with whoever's running the match, Vince, whoever it is. And that's how the announce table goes down. Here's a question that's off the beaten path. He said, hey, Steve, I love the podcast. I'm a big fan of yours at WWEF. Since you get asked a lot of questions about wrestling, I thought I would change it up a little. I read on a Top 10 Facts website that in your spare time you collect antiques. It was revealed during an interview in the late 90s. Do you still collect, and if so, what sort of stuff do you collect? P.S. I do enjoy the old wrestling stories. I listen to every podcast. Keep up the good work. Swig a beer for the working man. And that comes from Jamie, and he's out of Manchester, England. The United Kingdom sure has a lot of Steve Austin Show listeners, and I appreciate you guys listening over across the pond. Well, my mother got me collecting antiques way back in the day. She started off collecting Coca-Cola memorabilia, mostly porcelain enamel signs. They don't really make a whole lot of porcelain enamel signs anymore these days. They still do, but few and far between. They don't seem to have the same panache and style that they did back in the day. So, I've always collected Coca-Cola stuff because of my mother, but I've got enough of that. Currently, I am looking for a white Coca-Cola button, 36 inches, that's white with just the bottle of Coca-Cola on it, because they're in my pavilion at the Broken Skull Ranch. I have a red one on the other side, and I want to go contrasting colors, put the white one on the other side. So that's what I'm in the hunt for right now, a white 36-inch Coca-Cola button with just the bottle on it, and I want to get it in premier shape. I've had a chance to buy some. They were just kind of ragtag, a lot of bullet holes and rusted up, but I want to find the best one I can. Currently, what I'm really interested in is the old oil and gas signs, and some of these signs are from 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and it's just off-the-wall gasoline companies, oil companies that were around way back in the day, and that's what I really spend my time looking for if I can find good stuff. And when I used to buy signs, because I'm frugal by nature, or if you want to call me cheap, and I wouldn't buy the highest quality signs that I could find. I just wanted the sign. But here's the thing. You get what you pay for. So you're going to pay a little bit more for a sign that's going to be an 8.5 to a 10 on a 1 to 10 scale. You want to try to find and get the best quality you can, because that's always going to be reflected if you want to flip that sign later on down the road. I do have a couple of signs that are shot to hell with bullet holes that have some character to them, and that's why I picked those up on a reasonable dime. But if my preference is, the signs that score at least an 8 or better, and that's what I like to collect. And then other than signs, I also still collect, my neon clocks, stuff from the 20s and 30s. I had bought a clock from a guy a couple of years ago, and finally the neon tube burned out. I knew it was an old clock as soon as I walked into his place, and he knew it was old too, because he's been working on clocks for 10, 15 years, making neon tubes for him, and he's a guru. But he didn't really understand what he had so I bought that clock from him. As soon as I saw that clock, I knew I wanted it, and I pulled the trigger. I think I paid $350 for it. Well, finally the neon tube burned out, and so I called him up, and my buddy's name is Curtis. And if you want to check out his website, and he builds custom clocks. He built my Broken Skull Ranch clock way back in the day. Go to curtisclocks.com. I believe it's Curtis Clocks, and he's also on Instagram and Twitter. So anyway, I took that. I called Kurt up, and I said, "Hey, man, that old clock you sold me finally burned out. Can you replace the neon?" And the neon originally was red in it, and I decided when I was going to replace that neon, I would go aquamarine green, because it's just a softer light that's a little bit more forgiving on the eyes. And I was really glad I decided to change the colors, because the clock is absolutely beautiful. I'll send a picture of it when I get back to the house this weekend. And Kurt got inside that clock, and he found out how rare it was. That clock is from the early 1920s, and it's probably worth, and it's not in pristine condition, and it used to have a neon tube on the outside of the clock as well. I didn't want to replace that one because I enjoyed the fact that it's just a rugged, old-school, beat-up clock. But it's probably worth at least double what I paid for it. So that's what I'm focusing my side on. That's what I'm focusing my collection stuff on right now. Gas, oil stuff, every here and there, a little bit of Coke stuff, still looking for that 36-inch Coke button, and always looking for Pearl, Lone Star, Shiner, old beer clocks with neon tubes. I love it, and it's just very relaxing, and it's kind of fun haggling with someone trying to get a good deal on an antique. Oh, here's one. Here's a question that came in from my Twitter account, Steve Austin BSR. I swear, Steve Austin BSR, a goddamn gray shirt will make a motherfucker look 50 pounds heavier. I'm wearing one now. Fuck this 50 pounds of gray. You know, and that's the thing. Was there a couple of books way back in the day, 50 Shades of Gray? I don't know if it was crime or mystery, but all the women was buying the books. It sounded like a bunch of fucking and sucking to me. But I guess the books really struck a chord with the general public, and I guess now they're making a movie out of it. But fuck the 50 Shades of Gray. Let's talk about the 50 pounds of gray. When I went and did that commercial, that hamburger commercial, that person that was in charge of wardrobe, I bought them jeans myself. Those are my jeans I wear. I'm real picky about my jeans because I got these big-ass legs. It's hard to find anything that fits. And then when the guy said it was between that and a light blue shirt, and when that guy says, oh, yeah, I like this light gray shirt, I'm thinking, oh, shit. You know, because I don't own a gray shirt because they're very unforgiving on your midsection. About this time, I was a lot heavier than I am now. And so in that commercial, I got a lot of tweets saying, hey, Steve, you're a fat son of a bitch. Well, I didn't really appreciate the tweets, but, you know, the proof is in the pudding. I was doing some beer research at the time, and I left that gray shirt there. When I got undressed and got into my clothes, I think I took one or two of the shirts with me, but I don't wear no gray shirts just for that very reason, because you goddamn right, they can sure make a motherfucker look real shitty. Now here's a question. Steve, I had a question about the Ringmaster gimmick. I've heard you mention on the podcast a bunch of times it was a shitty gimmick, but I couldn't disagree more. I was a huge wrestling fan growing up, but fell away in the early, mid-'90s because of the ridiculous gimmicks. Wrestling plumbers, trash men, man-tars, lagoon, etc. It was embarrassing to be a fan for a while. I read that question with respect to those guys that did those gimmicks. The question goes on. I ended up buying a ticket to a Superstars taping in '95, and you debuted as the Ringmaster. You came out with a no-nonsense black trunks, a vicious work rate, a serial killer demeanor, and a $1 Million Man on the stick. It was absolute gold and a breath of fresh air in a cartoon world. Not realizing at the time how good of a talker you were, I thought that character had a silent killer aspect to it that made you the next great heel. What about that gimmick did you find so terrible? Thanks, Jeff. Oh, Jeff is sending this email in from Columbus, home of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Swig of coffee for the working man. Well, let me tell you about the Ringmaster. You know, when that phone rang, and I've told this story many times, and it's Vince McMahon on the other end pitching it, hey, pal, how you doing? I got a great gimmick for you. Want to bring you in as the Ringmaster, you know, master of the ring. Ted DiBiase's your manager. You'll come in as a $1 Million champion. You come in as a champ, and we'll go from there. Well, you know, again, when he said Ringmaster, man, I'm thinking circus. Dun 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 dun. You know, damn near like a clown. Not like Doink the Clown, because that was a hell of a gimmick. So I came in there, and I believe when I made my debut, I was still wearing my Hollywood Blondes white boots with a black star. Originally, they wanted me to wear emerald green. They wanted me to wear an emerald green singlet. Homie don't wear singlets. So started off in emerald green trunks. I wore those for about 1 or 2 TV tapings, and then I said, fuck this. I don't like this kind of green. I'm going to go back to black because it was basic type material, and I hadn't really grown into goatee yet. I still had that buzz haircut, which was inspired by Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction. So I had to put all the pieces together. And, yeah, you're right, that the attitude for the Ringmaster was kind of silent killer. You know, let action speak louder than the words. And the work style in the ring was very vicious. It was very aggressive. You couldn't see through it. And I didn't turn too many heads with that name, with that moniker. And I'd already been stunning Steve Austin for 5-6 years, damn near 7 years. And so I had that name as Steve Austin, then all of a sudden I lost, you know, damn near 6 years of wrestling and on my resume due to the gimmick change. So anyway, I can appreciate where you're coming from because, yeah, in that era when there was a bunch of gimmicks that weren't so great, and again, I say that with all due respect to those guys that did the gimmicks because I know how it is to get stuck with a gimmick just because, that's what they see for you, and it's a job, and it's a paycheck, and it's a means to pay the bills. So it just turns out that as I kept thinking about it, 6 months later after doing it and knowing that there was nowhere to go creatively really up the card, I didn't see the Ringmaster headlining WrestleManias. I didn't see the Ringmaster having a lot of marquee value. I didn't see the Ringmaster being on T-shirts, Ringmaster 316 and all that other stuff just wasn't something that I was thinking of. So finally, when I came up with that Stone Cold Steve Austin thing and pitched that, we just slowly segued into that name. No fanfare, no ballyhoo. We just started announcing that I was now Stone Cold Steve Austin from Victoria, Texas. And I wanted to be from Victoria, Texas because, everybody always wants to be from a big city. It's got a little, catch to it. Oh, that's a cool city. That's where he's from. I wanted to be from Victoria because it had a good ring to it. Nobody had ever really heard of it. And it was a town that I actually used to live in. So all the pieces came together for me, obviously, when I changed over to Stone Cold Steve Austin from Victoria, Texas. But it was a long bunch of work in progress and very fortunate to come up with it. But I've always said about the Ringmaster gimmick, and, this gimmick was actually pitched to several wrestlers before Vince finally sold it to me on the phone, and I bit on the hook with the Ringmaster bait because I needed a job. I had a wife and kid, and I had bills to pay. And at the time, I was working for Paul Lee Dangerously one day a week, making a little bit of money, flying back and forth to Philadelphia for ECW. Fond memories working with Paul Lee, who sure helped me out down the road, and we know how that story turns out. But that's my thoughts on the Ringmaster gimmick. And I just felt like there wasn't a whole lot of thought put up to it because I saw later on down the line, I saw renderings that an artist had made of what the Ringmaster would look like. And I basically came in there with a hodgepodge gimmick, green trunks, Hollywood Blondes boots. I asked Vince about a jacket, a vest, something, because everybody had a presentation back then. You needed a well-rounded, package of, your appearance, your gimmick, your whole presentation to kind of make a splash. And, many times people always say you only get one time to make a first impression. Well, I got 2 times to make a first impression. And when Vince told me, don't worry about a ring jacket, you'll be just fine, I didn't think there'd been a whole lot of thought to that concept, or at least executed to me. And I thought that at the time they wanted me to more or less be a mechanic, not be a major star. And it was almost going back to the Hollywood Blondes days where they just stuck Brian and myself in together as a interim tag team to get other guys over, and we ended up getting over. Of course, they pulled the plug on us, and that's another story for another day. But this was that gimmick, and I had to come up with something better if I wanted to survive and continue my quest to be the best in the business and make my way to the top of the card. That's how that went down. And I look back, hey, man, I had a good time when I made that debut. And I was very physical, and you couldn't see through my style, and it boded well for my future. Let's go on to the next question. Here's an interesting question. The first one this guy wants to know, and this has come from Paul over in London, England again. He said, Steve, everyone has a Mount Rushmore wrestling, but what would be your wrestling heaven? What legends that are sadly gone would make your top 5 wrestling heaven? Who would be holding the winged eagle strap up those golden stairs? Man, I ain't even going to go into the Mount Rushmore thing, but I will go into your second question. And it says, I hear you talk of your favorite music, but just wanted your opinion on the icon and national treasure that was Elvis Presley. John Lennon said, before anyone done anything, Elvis did everything. Without Elvis, there would be no Beatles. Just wondered what Stone Cold thought of him. Much love from London, England, Paul. Man, I tell you what, Paul, I was the biggest Elvis Presley fan in the world. Every now and then I'll get on YouTube and I'll type in Elvis Presley, Return to Sender. You watch this very catchy tune. Watch the smile on Elvis's face. The thing about Elvis that was so unique, there's been many Elvis impersonators in Las Vegas, and every now and then you'll see someone that kind of looks like Elvis Presley. But that guy had such a unique look. No one has ever really looked like Elvis Presley. Man, that was a good-looking dude with so much charisma, and he had that smile. And as big a star as he was, has a little bit of a self-deprecating sense of humor. And you talk about turning on a laser beam that just affected so many people in an entire country, not just an entire country, like John Lennon said it, the entire world was captivated by the man that was Elvis Presley. Way ahead of his time. He had the hips. Back in the day, everything was a little bit more moderate and conservative. They had to film him from the hips up because they thought it was a little vulgar the way he used to dance. So when you think about back in the old days, I mean, he really did nothing vulgar. But that was the time that we lived in. And when you watch what's going on these days, it's all a bunch of chicken shit. It's gyrating. It's bullshit. It's a bunch of choreographed dancing. Elvis Presley went out there and did it live with a voice that never failed him. Even back in the late 70s when he did that little comeback thing or whatever it was in Las Vegas. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. It's early in the morning on one cup of coffee. But when he made that little comeback, and he was pretty much into drugs, pretty heavy. And I remember that concert. He was a little bit heavy wearing that white suit, and he was a little bloated, sweating profusely. And his voice never, ever failed him. And he always had that scarf on his neck. And sometime in the concert, midway or whatever, maybe he put on several scarves. But he'd walk over to the edge of the stage to a packed arena wherever he was, and he'd throw that scarf out there, and his women would just go crazy for it. So, man, I was the biggest Elvis fan in the world. And I read a few stories about him, and he was an interesting cat. And, the whole thing about how he met Priscilla Presley and all of his shenanigans, and he used to just buy Cadillacs and give them away. I always wondered what kind of deal he signed with those Sam Phillips, whatever the dude's name was that produced his records, over at Sun Records, I guess. And because I know that guy took him to the woodshed on the percentages on that. And Elvis Presley made a shitload of money, but so did Sam Phillips. And so anyway, when you go back to the mansion over in Memphis, Tennessee. I think I remember passing by there when I was working in Memphis, but I never got a chance to go to Graceland, and I always wanted to. And it looked like a gigantic house back in the day, but when in reality, it's a pretty, modest-sized house. But, of course, Elvis, the big gates, all the stuff around it, Cadillacs everywhere, and he had that big jet, and the Lisa Marie, the airplanes. Hey, man, Elvis did it big, and he did it badass, and he was the king. So John Lennon's right. Elvis Presley was the man. And on an entirely different note, just as far as another music superstar that you could put on his level, would be Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson did it in a whole different way with a different style of music, kind of pop music, though it's almost the same. Michael Jackson just crossed over, and I'll never forget the, what was the name of that album he came out? The one with Rock With You on it. That album, before the Thriller album, I guess it was, but Michael Jackson just had that same type of charisma, energy, star power that crossed over to an entire world. And I've never seen anybody, I've seen some great dancers in my lifetime, but nobody could dance like Michael Jackson. Just so light on his feet. He was just kind of had that slim build. It was kind of before, he started getting all the surgeries and kind of, got off track, and it was a bad deal with the propofol thing and how he died. But, man, Elvis Presley was just a megastar. And, of course, Michael Jackson, just so much untapped talent left inside him before he passed away. And, I wish Elvis would have been around to stick around a little longer and see what else, what other kind of music. I know Michael Jackson was just getting ready to go back out on tour, and they were rehearsing and practicing. And, I'd heard, he had lost a lot of weight before he had passed away. But those two guys were two of the biggest music superstars. When it comes time to just global domination, I put those two almost in the same category. And on a personal note, just as far as one of my other favorite musicians who wasn't as big as Elvis Presley or Michael Jackson, It's my favorite guitar player of all time, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And if you're not a blues fan, you probably wouldn't get his music. But I wasn't necessarily a hardcore blues guy, but when I started hearing Stevie Ray play the blues, and because I'm a guitar fanatic, I love guitar players, guitar pickers, a person that could pick up a guitar and make you feel things with that guitar. Man, nobody played like Stevie Ray. And now I know I'm inviting a hell of a lot of emails to questions@steveaustonshow.com about who's the best guitarist. I'm not just talking about like Yngwie Malmsteen kind of speed. I mean, that dude's unreal. He's grease lightning on an electric guitar. The motherfucker is totally bad. I love everybody's sound, and Jimi Hendrix was a big influence on Stevie Ray. So was Lonnie Mack. Many of you people have never heard of Lonnie Mack. Get on YouTube and go find him playing a song called Stop. Listen to him play Wham, a duet that he does on stage with Stevie Ray Vaughan. Check out Oreo Cookie Blues. But when you watch Stevie Ray and Lonnie Mack play Wham, you see where Stevie Ray got his musical influence from, especially playing that tremolo bar while still picking with his right hand and doing the finger stuff on the fretboard with his left hand. That was a direct influence from Lonnie Mack. And I remember an old story when Stevie was growing up in Dallas South Oak Cliff. He went to the record store because he had worn out the one that was Jimmy's record, actually, his brother Jimmy Vaughan. And he had earned some money. He went to the record store, and he told the guy that was working there, he goes, "Hey, man," basically, I'm paraphrasing this, but he goes, "Give me the baddest rock and roll album you got." And at the time, it was done by a guy named Lonnie Mack, and I believe the album was Wham, Sound of the Memphis Man. And that's what Stevie Ray bought, and that's what he learned, and that's where he learned the technique and his trademark style. So Stevie Ray goes way down the book. Anyway, I'm starting to segue off here and give you a couple of my favorite guitarists. Let me answer one more question, and then I'll get another cup of coffee and feed Hershey and try to send this file to Stacy and back this thing up with another 30 minutes of questions. Here's a question about hair loss. Hey, Steve, a while back you answered a question on hair loss. I'm 23. I used to have a lot of hair, but lately it seems that the hair has been going. I used to be overweight, and I was able to lose weight by working out and watching my diet. I've tried biotin and some other products here and there, but I think it's irreversible. I'm getting married in May, and I just dread having thinned out hair on my wedding day. It's something that I worry about because I'm still young, and I feel like I shouldn't be losing my hair. I know that it's what's on the inside that counts, but appearances matter for my own appearance and self-esteem. Can you speak to hair loss and how to deal with it? Thank you. The podcast is my go-to listen.